Welcome in Adjunct Professor at Montclair State University, Dan Geltrude. Dan, good morning. Let's get right into this. So consumer spending saw a growth rate of 2.3% as opposed to the 1.5% figure we saw just last quarter. All right, so we also saw a surge in imports, bringing business investments down by nearly 1%. Dan, what do you think these numbers could mean come November?
So when we look at what happened with GDP, that's positive news. So what's behind that? Well, you had wage increases, you do have inflation easing, and you also have an increase in debt spending. Keep in mind, personal savings are down 3.5% year over year. Yep. Not a great sign. So it's always when you see these numbers, Alex, you have to go beyond that, see what's going on. As far as the imports, increase in imports, what does that tell you? That tells you that there's going to be more competition against U.S. companies.
Yeah, and that's why J.D. Vance has said he wants higher tariffs on overseas imports. So the Department of Justice finalizing its plea deal with Boeing after the airline company agreed to plead guilty to a felony charge of defrauding the U.S. government. Now, as part of that agreement, Boeing will need to pay nearly $244 million on top of investing at least $455 million into compliance, quality, and safety programs. And then their board of directors will have to hold a meeting with the families of victims from two fatal 737 crashes and their legal representatives, with a federal judge needing to approve the deal. Dan, what do you think the court will rule?
Well, it's hard to say what they should do. However, I think the judge should reject this. And the reason I say that is because people died here on these 737s. There's got to be some accountability. Remember what the charge was. We're talking about a criminal fraud case. So it should be more than a fine. I get the fine is substantial. It's not enough. If we want to keep air travel safe, we have to hold people accountable. Criminally accountable, which means someone should be going to jail for all that's happened with Boeing.
I completely agree with you. Okay, moving on to my favorite topic, the economy under Kamala Harris. President Trump seeing a strong favor against Vice President Kamala Harris in the betting market. Trump being the strongest candidate on platforms like Predictit and Polymarket, which set him at a 9-point and 23-point lead, respectively. Dan, we need to talk about Kamala's prospective policies every single day until November. She wants to get rid of private insurance, eliminate oil and gas, get rid of fracking, overshore drilling. She has literally come out, Dan, and said she wants, in quotes, everyone ends up in the same place. Okay, to me, that sounds like communism. Free college tuition. We know it's not free. Free health care for illegals. We know it's not free. It's all coming from us taxpayers right here. Increased taxes on the middle class. Dan, what do you make of these economic policies from Kamala Harris?
Well, I don't agree with them. And I think what voters are going to be looking at here, Alex, is primarily two issues from what I could see. It's going to be about immigration, because that is really a hot button across the nation, whether you're a border state or not. And number two, the economy. So if people are really focused in on that, they have to compare how Donald Trump fared while he was president, and you have to take Joe Biden's policies, because they are also Harris's policies, and put them together and say, hey, listen, which do you think is better? I personally think it's obvious. We'll see what the voters say.
Yeah, and Dan, when you say take Joe Biden's policies and then just bring them over to Harris, and then guess what? Do that and then move them over to the left even more. She's even more progressive than him. And then when you talk about the border, she wants to abolish ICE. She compares it to the KKK. So like you said, the answer seems pretty simple to you and I, but the voters, they will have their choice come November. Dan Geltrude, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thanks, Alex.